Here is the latest Higher Summits forecast brought to you by our friends at the Mount Washington Observatory.
Weather above treeline in the White Mountains is often wildly different than at our trailheads. Before you hike, check the Higher Summits forecast at mountwashington.org. Weather observers working at the nonprofit Mount Washington Observatory write this elevation-based forecast every morning and afternoon. Search and rescue teams, avalanche experts, and backcountry guides all rely on the Higher Summits forecast to anticipate weather conditions above treeline. You should too. Go to mountwashington.org or text forecast to 603-356-2137. And here is your forecast through Saturday, June 1st. A wind chill alert is in effect from 5 p.m. Thursday through 10 a.m. Saturday. So Friday, in the clear under cloudy skies, trending in and out of the clouds with a high in the upper 30s. Winds will be northwest, shifting north at 15 to 30 miles per hour, increasing to 25 to 40 miles per hour. Wind chill 20 to 30 above. Friday night, in and out of the clouds under mostly clear skies, trending out of the clouds with a slight chance of rain, mid-30s, with winds north at 25 to 40, decreasing to 15 to 30 miles per hour. And the wind chill will be 15 to 25 above. And then Saturday, in the clear, with a high in the mid-40s, wind chill 15 to 25 above.
Broadcasting from the Woodpeckers Studio in the great state of New Hampshire, welcome to the Sounds Like a Search and Rescue podcast, where we discuss all things related to hiking and search and rescue in the White Mountains of New Hampshire. Here are your hosts, Mike and Stomp.
All right, Stomp, episode 154. How you doing?
Pretty good. How you doing? What's new?
Same old. Just working, getting ready to do a little traveling this week.
Nice.
Getting on a plane tomorrow. I got to go to North Carolina and retrieve my daughter's car from college. So we're road tripping up from North Carolina after we move her into her apartment. So she's like an upperclassman now. So she's like got to get an apartment in June, and then we drive her car up. So
gotcha.
Adult stuff.
Oh, that'd be fun. Sounds good.
Yeah. So welcome to episode 154 of the Sounds Like a Search and Rescue podcast. This week we are joined by Kimball Rexford of TrailsNH.com. So TrailsNH has just about every hiking trip report, trail advisory, and forest road closing in the Northeast. By following hiker blogs and hiker forums, Trails New Hampshire helps hikers access the most current trip planning information anywhere. It truly is a one-stop shop to aggregate information on hiking across New England. So looking forward to sitting down and talking with Kimball to learn about this. Plus, we've got the story of a fatality and the ensuing rescue on Mount Washington from an event that happened in 1983 during an unusual weather period where the mountain became completely covered in ice. Plus, we've got recent hikes on the Grand Traverse, Mount Washington and Pleasant Mountain. We've got a rabid fox story that I accidentally skipped over last week. Sorry, Stomp. Flower drama in Stomps area. We've got claims of sabotage on Mount Everest. More details on the Massachusetts hiker that was attacked by a grizzly. There's a fatality that occurred in an indoor climbing gym. We've got shark news, and then we've got rescues on Mount Cardigan, Edmands Col, and the Rocky Branch Trail. So I'm Mike.
And I'm Stomp. Let's get started.
This is Ben Pease from Hiking Buddies. We are a 501c3 nonprofit committed to reducing avoidable tragedies through education, impactful projects, and fostering a community of support. You can find out more at hikingbuddies.org. We wanted to say thank you to those who have supported our mission, and most importantly, say thanks to those who speak up, who ask questions, and who are willing to provide guidance and assistance on the trails when needed. You embody what it means to be a hiking buddy. And now, for all my newer hikers out there, here's this episode's Hiking Buddies Quick Tip.
A $5 bug net that goes over your head might be the best $5 you ever spent. During black fly season, trails and even some summits can suddenly become unbearable. Protect yourself and hike with comfort. They weigh almost nothing, carry two, and be someone's hero.
Oh, and I'm dying here, Stomp.
Yeah, man, you got to kick this thing. You got to get on the green tea or something.
I don't know. I'm still under the weather, listeners. I don't know what's going on. I think I got COVID, and I was in denial the first week or two, but now it's just like turned into this persistent cough that I've been powering through. But it is what it is.
Well, I'll take care of the beer duty tonight, okay?
All right. Thank you. Did you just open that beer with your teeth, by the way?
Yes, I did.
That's like, as your
disturbing,
dentist, don't ever do that.
Your dentist said that?
No, I'm your dentist, and I'm telling you,
you're
do not
my
do
dentist.
that. You're gonna break your tooth.
Okay.
Stomp
I'll
literally
take it
just
under
put the whole
advisement.
can of beer in his mouth and just ripped it open with his tooth.
That's the way I typically do it, because I don't have any nails. I clip them really short.
Can't you just push down on the end of it and it'll pop up enough, and then you can...
I'll see what I can do.
I'm horrified. All right, so Stomp, you've got breaking news here with Stomp. Like vague texted me. He's like, "There's a lupin slaughter going on," and I was like, "Oh man, I don't know what he's talking about here." But it's apparently a lupin is a flower, and there's some kind of controversy going on up in New Hampshire where this is why we can't have good things. So why don't you explain what's going on with the lupin slaughter of 2024?
Yeah, there are some social media posts out there about this, but the lupins pop up every spring, and it's a huge tourist hotspot, particularly up in Sugar Hill, in those areas. That's one of the biggest areas. And some homeowners have just mowed their lupin fields completely because of the tourists. The tourists just getting rowdy and coming into the property and making a mess, and it's the same old story. So this is why we can't have good things. So yep.
So
it's a shame.
They're called lupins.
Correct. They're absolutely beautiful. I mean, if you haven't seen it, it's great. Not all the fields are mowed, but several have been. So it's just your access to this springtime lupin event is going to be a little bit more limited. Homeowners
so
have had enough.
Yeah, all right. Well, yeah, I see these flowers. So they're like these purple and pink type flowers. So they look pretty. Yeah. We've had issues with the sunflowers in our area. Like I have a farm that does sunflowers, and a bunch of people go there and get their pictures taken in the sunflower field. But it's chaos and it's not fun. I went there one time with the kids. I'm never coming back here.
Yeah. No, yeah, same story.
All right. Well,
yeah.
And I'm assuming they're like turning around in people's driveways or parking on side of the road when they're not supposed to, and just causing chaos. Is that what's happening?
Absolutely. Yeah. In personal property damage.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Well, the locals are not having it anymore, so we cannot have good things anymore. So.
Yeah.
All right, Stomp. So breaking news out of Mount Everest. There are reports that some of the people on Mount Everest are cutting ropes on the summit. And there's one particular guide company that's claiming that it was sabotage directed specifically at him. And then there's a bunch of people that are like, calm down. It's not really true. So I don't know what's going on, but there seems to be a lot of drama at Mount Everest right now.
Nims Dai, the famed mountaineer Sherpa that tackled all the highest peaks. You know, remember the what was it, Netflix special?
Yeah,
where he tackled all those. So he posted a video claiming that his ropes were cut, and he went online to Instagram claiming that it was done purposely against him because he's the famous mountaineer guy that does whatever else. That pissed off a lot of people, and at the moment, the Ministry of Culture, Tourism, and Civil Aviation out of Nepal has posted a press statement dated the 27th, stating that the ropes are fine, there was never an issue, and they are actually seeking a legal investigation or starting an investigation into Nim's claims. So what a mess, huh? Strange.
Yeah. And for people that aren't familiar, essentially what happens is that there's a team of Sherpas that will go up early in the season to set ropes. And once those ropes are set, so they all work together to get through the Khumbu ice field and set the ladders and all that stuff. And then there's a higher group of Sherpas that will go up to set the ropes by the Hillary Step and all those different areas there. And then everybody relies on those ropes to use. So all the different guide companies will rely on those. So the idea that somebody had cut those ropes, it's not just going after one guide company. It would be impacting basically everybody that's up there. So it sounds like the government is saying that the accusation is false. So I don't really know what's going on, but
we'll find out.
Yeah. And I'll link a couple articles in the show notes. Like Alan Arnett has an article on there. He doesn't really know what to think of it at this point. He's just reporting it at this point, but I'm sure that we'll get more details.
Yeah, for sure. It's been a weird season up there. Yeah, I'm sure you've seen the queues. The lines are just super phenomenal. They're so long. It's incredible. A lot of deaths. Yeah. It's just, it's a mess.
Yeah. It is a mess, but so Stomp, moving on to a story that we covered last week about a Massachusetts resident that got attacked by a grizzly bear. So there's more information on this one. Matter of fact, we got some people reach out to us that know the victim. I guess it sounds like he's a great guy, disabled vet. Yeah. Definitely like a strong outdoors person. And he had actually posted a summary on his Instagram about the incident. So he took a picture, sort of showed the attack. It's pretty scary. He's got like a really significant injury in the back of his head behind his ear. Yeah. And then I think he said he got bitten in the leg as well. But essentially what he was doing was, I think he was out looking to photograph a great gray owl. And, we walked out from the parking lot. He was supposed to be gone for about an hour on a Sunday afternoon. And unfortunately, he got attacked by a mother grizzly protecting her cub. So as he was walking through the area to try to spot this owl for a photograph, he basically said to his wife, like, I'll be back in about an hour. He was a little bit over the timeline, so he figured she'd be getting worried. So he had to hustle it back to the car, and he had bad phone service. So he was just trying to, I guess, navigate his way through, and he just had a bad feeling. He was breaking some branches and making some noise in order to not have any surprise encounter. And sure enough, he walked right into a thick area where he saw a brown bear running up a hill, probably about 50 yards away. And He did have bear spray, and before he could even get it out, the mother, had started charging. So he gave his back and laid down, and basically got bit, slashed on his back, his right shoulder, and luckily, he was able to use, I think, the bear spray to finally get her or the grizzly off of him. But crazy story.
Yeah, a little more detail on that. He had his hands around his neck to protect his jugular veins, the arteries and whatnot. And in one hand, he had the bear spray, and the bear bit the can inadvertently while trying to go for his neck. And that's when the bear actually, got sprayed by the spray and ended up taking off. But that was a hell of a close call. Said it was the most violent thing he's ever experienced. He refers to IED explosions, mortars, and being shot at during his time in the military. Unbelievable.
Yeah. I mean, so fortunate that the placement of the bear spray and the fact that he was able to sort of just be in a position where she was able to engage with it, because otherwise, who knows what would happen. But crazy story and scary. So thankful that he was able to survive, and it just shows like it can happen at any time, and you got to be careful. But he had everything he needed. He had that bear spray, and that ultimately, whether he engaged it or not, like that saved him.
Absolutely, no doubt about it.
Yep. So I'm think I'm gonna avoid grizzly territory, Stomp. I'll be honest with you.
I know, right? Yeah. Now we go on to a little smaller critter that's causing some trouble. So this is the story that we jumped over last week, but I wanted to talk about it because I find it interesting. A rabid fox has been euthanized in Hollis after biting a 4-year-old. This is dated the 16th. Apparently, the fox bit a 4-year-old on a Sunday afternoon. It tested positive for rabies, which is a disease with nearly 100% fatality rate. So I don't have the story here, but I believe there was another case 100 miles away of another rabid fox. So I don't know what's going on out there. It may be a common thing that happens occasionally, but the question I had was, is this something we need to be concerned about when we're on trail or bushwhacking? Who knows?
I don't know. I mean, I see fox more frequently down here when I'm running on trails. Like I had a fox run right in front of me, and then I've seen fox just walking around my neighborhood in the afternoon. So
yeah, same here.
Yeah, I feel like it's more likely you're going to see them in like a suburban environment than you are probably in the whites.
Yeah, I hope.
Yeah, but that's scary, and I love that the mother basically just like held the fox down and was like protected the kid eventually. So something to be aware of.
Yeah, those little critters.
Yeah, did you ever like I remember there was like a whole big event like when I was a kid. There was like a rabid raccoon that was like crawling around the O'Leary's yard, which is right across the street from me, and a police officer had to come and like shoot it, and we were all like hanging out watching the police officer take his gun out and shoot the raccoon. We're like, whoa, that was so cool! You shot the raccoon.
You actually saw that, huh?
Yeah, we were like 10 years old. So
wow. See, up here it's conservation officers. Yeah, the COs will come out and do that up here, but I've never experienced that.
Yeah, this is like early 80s, so like I don't think they were just like, we're just going to shoot this raccoon. So it was like the big talk of the neighborhood for like a week.
Oh, I bet.
Officer so and so came and shot the raccoon in your front yard.
Wow, what a riot.
Yeah. Anyway, well, growing up in the 80s, it was fun.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. All right, so Eric Hansen, our friend Eric, who was on the show a couple of weeks ago, sent us an article about how dangerous is Mount Washington compared to the other peaks in the U.S. And this is like a data-driven summary of accidents and fatalities. So they've got Denali, Mount Rainier, Mount Hood, and then Mount Washington is in the top 4.
Yeah, top 4. 4th deadliest, and 8th for accidents causing injuries.
Yeah.
So let me toggle that over to accidents. Is that toggle? No, I guess you can't do that.
Yeah, he sent an archived article, so it doesn't have that.
Oh, yeah, got it. Okay. Yeah, but thanks, Eric. That's very interesting. It's a good article. So, yeah. We're ranking.
Yeah, so by far the most dangerous summit in this region.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Yeah, because if I look at this, like almost every single other summit is in the West Coast or in Canada.
Yeah.
So, no, not Canada, but like Alaska.
Mm-hmm.
So, Mount Shasta, Longs Peak, Mount Baker, St. Helens. So, yeah, basically Mount Washington's the only East Coast summit on this list. So, we'll share this in the show notes.
Excellent.
Very good. All right. So just the next article here is there has been a fatality, Stomp. So 46-year-old man has died following a deadly climbing accident that happened on Tuesday, May 21st. According to reports, Lee Hanch, a resident of Pembroke, New Hampshire, passed away from injuries sustained in the accident. So apparently he was setting routes at a climbing gym and had a slip, and unfortunately was pronounced dead from his injuries. Not a lot of details at this point, but
that's really sad.
A pretty accomplished climber, and worked there. So he was setting the route. So we talked about this, I think, with Rusty before. Around every once in a while you got to reconfigure the routes, and it's pretty standard for indoor climbing gyms. So unfortunately, with this accident, he passed away.
Yeah, it's a shock. A lot of people reached out to me, and they were just, saying how well known he was, and just a great climber, a guide apparently, and another great loss for the community here. So yeah, rest in peace. That's a shocker. So strange. No details.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on it, and if there's any additional details, we'll share it. But definitely, thoughts going out to his friends and family.
Yeah.
All right, Stomp. Next up, we've got it looks like a young man here is going to be running. I don't know if he's young, 29. He's going to be running, circumnavigating the Lake Winnipesaukee. So
that's cool.
Which is that's a pretty good idea. Nathan Lamar is taking on this challenge to run 62 miles, and they're indicating there's more than 4,000 feet of vertical gain. Guess what, Nathan? It's going to be a lot more than 4,000 feet of vertical gain, I think.
Do you think?
I think
perimeter. So, the tightest perimeter around the lake.
Yeah, well, maybe. I guess. I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of up and down in that area. So maybe if he sticks to the perimeter, but
interesting.
Yeah, we'll have to see what the data is. But I guess the most recent person to do it was in 2010, and then there was another person, Bruce Kunar, who is Nathan Lamar's father-in-law, did it in 1989, so he's basically carrying on the family tradition. Nathan's a 29-year-old licensed nursing assistant and a graduate of Moultonborough Academy, and hated running when he was a teenager, but he found the love of running while in college and has been into it ever since, I guess. So we'll see how he does.
Well, he's apparently an alumnus of the White Lake Ultra.
Okay, so he's well prepared
by White Mountain Endurance. Oh yeah. Apparently.
Yeah. So we'll see. But I will say, like the Reach the Beach running that I've done around Winnipesaukee in that area, and I've done a couple of triathlons too in the area. A lot of up and downs are in the lakes region.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be a piece of cake for this kid.
Yeah. It is the PUD capital of New Hampshire.
Purposeless ups and downs for those that don't know.
Yeah, good luck. And then next up, just not hiking related, but we wanted to warn everybody that the sharks are back on Cape Cod. So there's seal sightings, and there's been like a sighting of a minke whale, I think, that had like shark bites taken out of it. So there's a lot going on right now in the ocean, and if I were you, I wouldn't go up past your knees, especially if you're down the Cape. It seems like it's going to be a crazy great white shark type of year.
Mm-hmm. Really early. It's hot.
Yeah, the water's getting warmer, and the thing I'm worried about is I think that like the seals are going to start moving a little bit farther north, and we're going to see more activity of great white sharks like up in my area by the New Hampshire seacoast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that's usually the pattern. I think they make it somewhat north, and then they start heading back.
Yeah, we don't often see any sharks. It's usually like they're down south of the Cape, so I'll just be curious to see if they show up in our area.
Yeah.
So, but I'm not an ocean guy. Like, I know you used to surf and everything. Like, I don't really go in the ocean unless I'm in like the Caribbean or something, where I can see the water.
Yeah, a little paranoid.
Yeah, I don't like it. Gives me the creeps.
I do miss the ocean.
Yeah. I like going to the beach. I'm not going in the water. I'm a little scared. So,
We all know that hiking a mountain can be hard at times. So here's a corny dad joke to help you get over it. But
this is the part of the show, Stomp, where I do a dad joke, and I did not prepare, so I'm just going to randomly pick one.
Uh-oh.
Thanks to my friends Camilla and Lance for getting me my book. Oh, here's one. Dogs can't operate MRI scans, but cats can. That's horrendous.
That's awesome. I love it.
That's horrendous. All right, how did the basketball get wet? How did the basketball get wet?
I'm not sure.
The players were dribbling with it. God. Horrendous dad jokes.
That's great.
Oh, boy.
Are you ready for Slasher's Gear Review?
Gear talk, Stomp.
Yeah, this is a neat one.
So what do you have?
All right, well, there's a company out there called Stoko. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but it's supportive apparel that's lined with basically high-tension metal cables that reinforce your body's muscles and ligaments. So it's sort of like a robotic enhancement. There's adjustable dials, so you can dial in the tension, and it just helps kinesthetically. It helps your movement, so it's interesting. I don't know if it would serve a purpose for healthy populations, but for somebody maybe hiking with an injury that's trying to get back on trail, this may be a really good solution. There's some compression as well.
All right, Stomp, you going to try it?
Oh, yeah. I'll see if we can get them on. We'll get a couple freebies, huh?
Yeah. You get your tights.
Yeah, I am curious about it, though. Yeah, who knows? 90 feet of high-strength cables hidden inside the fabric. What?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
You can tighten that stuff down.
Yeah. Good stuff.
All right, Stomp. So this is the part of the show where we are going to do a couple of sponsors. So we got CS Coffee, and then we got 48 Peaks.
Yeah, let's talk about CS Coffee. So the podcast is supported by CS Instant Coffee, makers of eco-friendly instant coffee. It's perfect for anyone who loves the outdoors as much as we do. Great for backpacking, day hiking, camping, and even at home. Learn more and get in touch at csinstant.coffee or email us at info@csinstant.coffee. And time is ticking. We are moving on to the 48 Peaks Alzheimer's event very soon, June 8th.
It's coming up.
Yeah, very soon. I've been working on my music, getting my sets ready. Very excited about that. Good. Yeah, so use your passion for hiking to help end Alzheimer's. In one collective effort, 400 plus hikers will climb New Hampshire's 4,000 footers or create their own challenge to support the mission of the Alzheimer's Association. The annual hiker celebration will take place Saturday, June 8th at Reckless Brewing Company with raffles, food, and an amazing community. Hike that weekend or any day you want. No fundraising minimums required, but those who raise $100 will receive this year's performance-grade purple t-shirt. Let's turn the White Mountains purple to end Alzheimer's. Visit alz.org/48peaks. That's alz.org/48peaks. Very cool.
Very cool, Stomp. So this is the part of the show where we talk about what beer we're drinking, and I'm just sticking with water because I'm still feeling a little under the weather.
Yeah, I'm having a Blue Comet. I just grabbed this a little while ago. So it's a brewery out of Massachusetts. Let me see if I can get some light on this. I can't see. So it's made by the Widowmaker Brewing Company. That's a good great name for a hiking podcast.
Yes.
Right? And this is, let's see, Blue Comet. It's a hazy India Pale Ale. 7.1% alcohol by volume, and it's a pint, of course, and it's actually pretty tasty. I like it. Nice graphics, too. Another fine Massachusetts brewery. What do you know?
Yeah, that's cool. So speaking of Blue Comet stuff, did you see the videos that were going around out of Portugal about the kids that were like videotaping meteors that were coming through?
No.
Did you see any of those? Yeah, I'll send you a video.
Okay, sure.
This one girl, she was just basically like taping herself, and a meteor just came flying right over her and just lit the whole sky up, and it's an amazing video.
Dramatic.
Yeah, so very dramatic.
Wow, what was the event? Like just an annual meteor shower, or?
No, it was just randomly. She just happened to be like taking a selfie of herself, like kids do nowadays, and all of a sudden, like a meteor just flew right over. And she was like, "Did that just happen?"
Wow, interesting. Yeah, I had not seen those. I knew we should have gone left back there.
Stomp, don't worry. I know it's this way. I've got a feeling in my gut.
Are you sure you're not about to have a bowel emergency?
Totally. We got this.
But I just blew out my hip. Fell down that gully with my 40-year-old microspikes.
Suck it up, Stomp. It's 4 p.m. We're at 3,500 feet. We got 9 miles back to the parking lot. Your leg may be broken. We got no cell connection, and we can't feel our fingers. But we're finishing all of my list tonight. By the way, I need some water. I'm empty.
I would if I could see what I'm doing, but my headlamp batteries are dead.
You gotta be kidding me. What a chump. This is the last time I hike with you.
Ha, whatever, mister. Do you know me? I have a podcast.
Whatever.
Let's find out what Mike and Stomp have been hiking.
All right, Stomp, this is the part of the show where we do recent hikes. So we both got out this weekend, and you and Mrs. Stomp got out and did a pretty cool hike that you would promise you were going to share all the details with the listeners last week. So spill the beans.
Yeah, top secret. The secret is revealed. We did the Grand Traverse. Mrs. Stomp had been chomping at the bit to do this one, and I've done it several times, but she was super, super anxious about it. And the night before, she actually was joking, like, I'm already sore from tomorrow. So she got amped up, and she was just, it's like that fear of the unknown when you're doing something big. And I tried to calm her down about it, because it is actually a really gentle traverse. So we started nice and early after some coffee, and ascended Tecumseh, the brutal 2 miles up to the Sauceman Trail, and then made our way gradually over to Mount Green and then Foss Peak. And man, we just had a great day of it. We took our time. We spent at least an hour up on top of Foss, which is the peak that's just north of Welch Dickey by about 1.5 miles as you're traversing over. And she did great. It's like that last 2 miles down Dickey were sort of fatiguing, but not bad. So props to Mr. Stomp for a really, really great day. And she crushed it for sure. And then Sunday we did Scour. She was a little bit sore from the hike, and she just sucked it up and said, yeah, let's do it. So we went out and hit Scour, which is, it's like a 2 mile hike into a nice view in Waterville Valley. But it was nice just to get that lactic acid out of the blood from the hike before.
Yeah. And she posted some nice pictures of the Scour. It looks like a beautiful area there. And then with the Grand Traverse, no problem like staying on track and all that.
There's 2 or 3 places that were a little weird, but for the most part, there was no snow, no need for spikes or anything like that. I spent a lot of time rebuilding cairns that, for whatever reason, people are knocking over. We're like, come on, just give me a break. It's like these are the authentic 1800s cairns. So people are weird, whatever. Yeah. But yeah, it's a solid herd path after Foss headed to Dickey, and like I'd mentioned before in previous episodes, from Sauceman Trail down to Green, somebody went in there with a chainsaw and really laid out the trail, so you can't go wrong for the first 2 miles or so. It gets a little weird coming down Foss because it's ledgy. and there's multiple routes down Foss, so you have to really pay attention to where you're going. But it's a beauty. It's a great time. I got to get you out there, Mike. It's so great.
Yeah, we got to do that at some point.
Yeah,
so,
she was floored.
Yeah, we'll get there. Yeah. But I got out. I went on Saturday. I traditionally, like Memorial Day, I typically will run the auto road. So I was, I check with my regular crew of people, and everybody was going off and doing their own thing. But my, Jakester had reached out to me like as I was driving up and was like, "Hey, what do you got going on?" And he was like, "Well, I'm right on the way if you want to pick me up." He had a car issue, so I was like, "Yeah, that's perfect." So we ended up doing. I like to go up on Alton Weagle Day, so you can kind of see what's going on. So
I forgot that was this weekend.
Yeah, so we did Pinkham Notch, and then we hiked up Old Jackson, and then picked up the auto road from mile 2, and we were a little bit behind on time. So we did pass a couple of people that were doing Alton Weagle, 2 ladies that were dressed in like more traditional dresses. And then there was a bunch of like single wheel people, and then some other like people that were on like those electric one wheels that were coming up and coming down. But yeah, we made it up onto the summit by like, I don't know, it was right around the time that the cars opened up. So we got right to the flat section when the cars started coming up.
Okay.
We were at like mile 7, and then.
And you were just hiking?
We just walked it.
Yeah. Just have a
and
chill
it was
day.
cool to see it through Jake's eyes, because he was like, the angles of these views, like the way that you approach the Great Gulf, the angle that you see Wildcat from the road, and then coming up on the side of the Great Gulf as you come through. He's like, this is very unique, and I haven't seen these views. So I was kind of enjoying seeing it through his eyes. Yeah.
Did you guys talk about how brutal it is for the Mount Washington road race?
I did. I picked out like some of the spots, and I was like, because there's that spot like 2.5-3 miles. That's like a grind. Before you get to the water stop. And then there's that section right when you break above tree line. And then there's the section at like mile 6.5 or whatever, right before you get to that flat section. So I was given like every little section of the road, but it was good. We went up. Cool. We spent like maybe a half hour in the observatory. We had food. We were talking. Ran into Megan up there, who had been on the show before, I think.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
So she said hi, and then we went and got our summit photo. The staff was up there getting the Tip Top House sign put together. The Cog Railroad was showing up. So yeah, it was a lot of activity. And then we headed down to Lakes of the Clouds hut and hung out down there for a little while. They were still getting ready. Everything was unpacked, and all the supplies were sitting on the table. So it wasn't open for business, but there was a lot of people outside just hanging out. And then, neither one of us had any interest in going up to Monroe. So we went over to Boot Spur via the Camel Trail. Yeah, we were like, we could have gone up, I guess, but we were like, we're going to head over to Boot Spur.
Monroe's awesome. I love Monroe.
It is great, but we were just like, we had a lot of miles on us. So, but yeah, the trip over to the Camel Trail to Boot Spur was easy. And, there's still some patches of snow, but nothing that we had to hike into. It's just like, left and right, there was a little bit of snow, but we got up to Boot Spur and then headed down to a couple of different viewpoints. So off of the Boot Spur, when you come down, there's a couple of different outlooks that you can rock hop. You have to be careful because there's a lot of vegetation, but you can rock hop to the ledges to look into Tuckerman. So we were watching the people ski in the left gully. There was a whole group of people skiing. Oh, wow. Left gully still, and it's fully like snowed in. So you could do it.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah. And then we decided to we just switched it up at the last minute on a whim. We were like, let's take Boot Spur link to Hermit Lake, and then we'll go down Tuckerman. So we did that. I don't know why that's not an elective on the Terrifying 25. That's a crazy steep trail.
I can't recall if I've done that or not.
Yeah, it's basically, so you come down the Boot Spur, from the Boot Spur summit, maybe, I don't know, 3/4 of a mile or so, and then it connects directly to Hermit Lake. And it's very much like Chemin des Dames. It's the same vibe of a trail.
Yeah, I have to correct you before listeners murder you. Chemin des Dames.
Yeah, or whatever. But it was cool. Then we went to Hermit Lake. We hung out there. It was a lot of sitting around, it was a long hike. It was 15 miles and 5,200 feet of elevation, but we had a lot of breaks, so it was good.
Yeah, it's nice though. I'm sort of tapping into that instead of hustling through it, just sitting down and chilling. Yeah. And I think that gives you longevity for your legs if you just do that and you chill, replenish, eat. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. Yeah. And Jake's, he's a great guy, easy to talk to. So we had a good time. And then on Monday, I got out with my brother-in-law's girlfriend's son came up. So he wanted to go hiking, so I took him up to Pleasant Mountain on Monday, but it was like kind of a bust. It was like kind of rainy and dreary, so we just ran up there and then ran back down pretty quick.
Okay. All right.
Getting out there though.
Yeah, no doubt. Yep. Feeling stronger, getting the cardio up.
Feeling stronger for sure. So,
yeah.
All right, Stomp. So now we are going to go into Vaucluse, and then we'll talk with Kimball.
All right. So, does your backpack not provide enough ventilation? Does your back sweat too much when backpacking? As you know, sweat can be extremely uncomfortable on the trails. Plus, sweat is a serious risk factor in both hot and cold climates. As your clothes get wet, your core temperature can dramatically fluctuate, and this can result in hypothermia, heat exhaustion, and dehydration. Let's not forget, just very uncomfortable. Today's your lucky day because we have good news for you. There's a piece of gear that solves the sweat and ventilation problem, making your backpack more comfortable. It's Vaucluse Gear's ultralight backpack ventilation frame. It's a frame that is an accessory that easily installs in your favorite pack for sizes 15 liters up to 45 liters and creates a ventilating airflow gap between you and your pack. It's also ultralight, weighing around 3 ounces, basically equivalent to a pair of wool socks. So whether hiking in hot or cold temps, the ultralight backpack ventilation frame from Vaucluse Gear is a real game changer regarding airflow and ventilation. So visit VaucluseGear.com to order an ultralight ventilation frame today. Use promo code SLASHER to enjoy a $5 discount and let them know that Mike and Stomp sent you. Cool.
Very good. All right, so we are going to go into our guest of the week here. So Kimball Rexford from TrailsNH was nice enough to join us to talk about his website. We geeked out a little bit about hiking. We talked a little bit about technology, and we just think that this is a cool website to utilize for information. So let's move into that, and then we'll catch you on the other side. And we've got another segment, and then recent search and rescue news to do.
Let's go.
It's time for Slasher's Guest of the Week. Very cool. Very cool.
All right, so we are live here with Kimball Rexford, TrailsNH.com. Welcome, Kimball.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
First time in a podcast, and you got to deal with us two scary guys, right?
Random strangers.
We're in the same age group, maybe.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Which is good. So, Kimball, so we wanted to have you join. I guess, Stomp, maybe you could start off. Could you just refresh the listeners? How did we get connected with Kimball?
I believe I just reached out to you randomly, Kimball. I saw your website, and we've been using your site for some time now for just basic data, some information, and then I discovered some of your tools on your site, and I thought, this would be really cool to get Kimball in for a chat. So it's very straightforward.
Yeah, I thought it was you, Stomp. I popped in on a podcast a little while ago, and I thought somehow I stumbled onto you on Instagram after that, so I started following you on Instagram, and then long after that.
Oh, that's great.
Wow. So Kimball, again, he's the creator of TrailsNH.com, which is a great site for all kinds of information around hiking in the Northeast. So, Kimball, why don't you start off and introduce yourself and then talk a little bit about Trails New Hampshire, and then we'll dive into sort of your earlier life in a few minutes, but just give us a quick intro.
Yeah. So I'm Kimball Rexford. I built TrailsNH from scratch. It's been running around. It's been on the internet for, 10 plus years now. My background or my employment is I'm a freelance website developer. I build websites for work. I work for myself, and then in my free time, I steal time and I work on TrailsNH instead of working for a client.
Awesome. And then what's the interest in hiking? Have you always been interested in outdoor activities and hiking, or is it something you picked up later in life?
Yeah, that's it. No, as a kid, I spent every summer on a farm and we'd hike in the woods. And then, one of my aunts brought me up Mount Monadnock, and I was like, wow, this is great. And, young little kid, tons of energy. It's like the mountain was nothing. And then just finding friends that loved to hike. So that was it. As a kid, I spent a lot of time in the woods, and as an adult, I get to still do it.
When you started building the websites or getting information, so you transitioned from a hiker that was doing it when it was guidebooks and no internet, and now it's you basically enabled a lot of information on the internet. Could you talk a little bit about, from your perspective, how that transition has played out and some of the good things, some of the bad things that you've seen through, shuffling into the information age? Yeah,
so it's kind of a mixed bag. So it's great that you can on a keyboard type in anything you need to know and it's there. But not 100% of the people who are writing it are accurate or even have done it. There's blog posts that are fake, so you just kind of have to be careful with information today. Is it really accurate? When I started doing the 4,000 footers, or shortly after, the original views from the top came out, which was great, but it was just a long list of everything in one place, and it was just hard to use. And I thought it would make more sense to put this on a map. I want to see where it happened. I can't go through this list and find what I need. I need a map. So that's kind of where it came from.
Wow.
Yeah, and as far as hiking goes, did you keep up with hiking all throughout your career, or was it something that you sort of walked away from for a while and then picked back up, and then it coincided with your interest in the technology side of things?
I've always been hiking. I love hiking. And I loved the phase when it was just guidebooks and maps, and I still plow over a map. So I got a map lying there, on the bed. It's like, there's nothing better than sitting there with your beer, studying the map, and where do I want to go next? What?
Yeah, that's cool.
And, kind of reading the topo lines. It's like, which route is going to be the one I want to do? And figure it out for yourself, just learning how to read that stuff.
Do you have certain areas, I always ask people this, what are your hidden gems as far as hiking goes, or different areas of the whites that you like to go to avoid the crowd, or to just that are not as sort of typical that a lot of hikers that are pursuing the 4,000 footers might hit?
Right. Well, the floor of the Pemigewasset Wilderness is truly amazing if you're looking to get away. The area around, well, maybe I won't say, because then people are going to go there, but
that's true. Don't give away all the secrets, but I can tell you, I've been on that floor, so coming down the Lincoln Slide to go to Owl's Head, without giving a lot of detail, you can follow that drainage, and then if you go left or you go right, there's all kinds of fun open forest that you can traverse and check out.
Wasn't too long ago I went up Cedar Brook Trail, so up by the Hancocks, and then out the backside, and then connected with the floor of the Pemigewasset, and it's absolutely beautiful out there. Nobody goes out there and totally worth being there. You don't have to
awesome.
hit the peaks to find something amazing. But you're going to want to know how to read a map, because you're going to get lost if you're not paying attention.
Yeah, for sure. So with TrailsNH, you have it aggregated so that you can go log in and do search for basically any peak in the Northeast.
That's right.
Can you talk through the early days of building the site and how it's progressed, and can you sort of highlight exactly some of the information that's on there?
Yeah, so it started with me typing in the names of the peaks, like Washington, Adams, Madison, and then building a web crawler and trying to match them up. So the web crawler found a trip report for Adams, and then I want to tag it to the mountain of Adams and then put it on a map. So I generated the original list and Latin long, the GPS location for all that stuff. It was really just the 48, and everything else just went into a bucket of other. But today, I have a web crawler just following OpenStreetMaps and pulling in new places. So I get the location, the name of the location, and its actual GPS location from OpenStreetMap. And that list keeps growing every day. Like there's a web crawler every 15 minutes, I think, that goes and checks for something new. And so I compare the trip reports that the web crawlers find with the master list I got out of OpenStreetMap.
Yeah, and I think the interesting thing is you're able to automate a lot of this. So like my progression, like I always, I'm a researcher for sure, and like I had my bookmarks, and I can go to New England trail conditions, and I can go to mountain forecast, and I can go to different mapping software, and other areas to get information. But the nice thing about TrailsNH is you basically aggregate all that information. If you're targeting a particular hike or a particular area, like you can just go on, and it's like a one-stop shop there, where it has like the weather info, the trail info, trail reports. It also has information about like, here's some other summits and peaks that are a little bit closer to the mountain that you could consider like connecting your hike to. So
yeah,
you didn't have TrailsNH like fully baked, so it's evolved over time, right?
Oh yeah, right. Mm-hmm. It was very simple in the beginning, just a big map with all the pins on it, and you would load either Google Maps or Google Earth. I don't know if you ever use that, and it would pull in a list that I generated every day. And so you would just see a map. But today, a lot of it got morphed into these pages, like you were just describing a summit page. Like you can pull up any summit, and I try to tell you everything I know about that summit. Is the road nearby open? What were the latest trip reports? And then other aggregated stuff like how many hikes were there last year? Let me see the trip reports for last year or 10 years ago. It's all in a nice database, and I try to chop it up into useful information. So when you're searching for, your next destination, you can find everything you want to know on it. It's got powerful. That map, like you saw the map today. It's been on there a few years. I designed that out of, it's called Mapbox. So it's not Google Maps. It's not OpenStreetMaps, but it's similar to the data that's in OpenStreetMaps. But I didn't like the maps that I could get out there for free, because when you zoom out, trails disappear. And it's like, if I'm in overview mode, trying to plan my hike out, I need to zoom out 5 to 10 miles to see, the breadth of the mountain and where I might start and what my options are. And a lot of the maps, the trails just fall off when they get small. I was like,
I've noticed that.
That's annoying as heck. So,
and the thing I like about you have, I don't know how many lists there's on here, probably about 20 or so. And the nice thing is when you view those lists, you can get a full map, because that's one of the hard things to find online is you can get a lot of static pictures, but your map you can zoom in and you can take a look at, and you can see how spread out these lists are when you look at the 4,000 footers versus the 52 with a view versus the New Hampshire Fire Tower quest map. So it is nice.
Yeah. Well, a mistake beginners often make, or they think they plan to do the 4,000 footers, but they don't look at a map to summarize where they are. And they might hike one peak and miss the neighboring one, and then basically have to do a second trip they could have avoided. So I love seeing like the 4,000 footers all pinned on one map. So it's like, okay, here's my project. What 2 can I pick off together, or 3, or depending who you are, 8, 9, 10, whatever.
Yeah, and just kind of a change of subject here, but I'm curious, like, so we're I guess we're probably around the same age, but like I've grown up in the tech industry for like the last 20 plus years. And I'm not hands-on tech, but I've been working in tech for that long. I'm curious, so you broke in like the 90s and into the 2000s, or maybe even sooner, but the evolution of technology, do you feel like, I feel like a very grateful that I grew up in the time that I did, where the tech bubble was just blowing up, and obviously there's been some downturns over the years, and but generally it's been a good career. I'm curious from your perspective, so you've been out on your own for a long time now, but from a technology perspective and going from a world where you maybe wouldn't start developing on the internet, now you've started working more and more on the internet. Can you talk about that experience from your perspective? And then if forward looking, what are you thinking about when you look at AI and the capabilities there, and how that may impact a site like yours?
Yeah, so TrailsNH is a lot of technology. There's web crawlers that are checking websites and pulling data from NOAA and looking for road conditions. So there's a lot of crawlers, and plus there's a massive database with every peak in New England and every park and all that stuff. And then there's just tons of code to make it user friendly. So when you go on there, you can find what you're looking for. So there's a ton of code in there. I originally wrote it in ASP because I had just left Hewlett Packard, and everything in the house was Microsoft related. And then everything outside the real world runs on open source. So it's like I had to learn PHP, but PHP is amazing and it's fast, and there's lots of companies that are dumping resources into making it better. Facebook contributed a lot of code to PHP to make it faster and better and stronger. So yeah, today writing the code is way simpler than it was 15 years ago or more. The evolution in that is just amazing.
Yeah, and your thoughts, have you looked at the AI, large language models, and how that may impact where you go in the future?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, I'm a freelance website developer. And so I use AI for work a couple of times a week, almost every day. Everything from like someone sends me a big schema of data and I want to store it in a database, make a database to hold it. And it's like something that would take you 2 hours to generate, took 2 minutes with AI. It's like, hey, make me a database schema for this data. And boom, there it is. So that end, AI is great. But it needs a person to review it. Like I had to go through and tweak the data types, getting a little technical, but is this stored as a number or a word or something else? So just had to fine tune it. So AI is an excellent assistant, but it's not your boss and it's not a pro. It does an excellent job at summaries. I use it for hiking related stuff like what is the hardest trail up or what is the easiest trail up? And it will give you an okay summary. But you have to double check it. It could be wrong.
Got it. And you've built your own set of tools that I want to get into here. So you've got a hiking difficulty calculator, you've got a hiking time calculator, and then the summit forecast. So starting with the hiking difficulty calculator, as a matter of fact, I was talk about this earlier, but I did... you always have these decisions when you're hiking. Like me and my friend Jake, we were like looking down on the boot spur link, and we were like, do we do it? Do we don't do it? And I was looking, oh, that looks damn steep. So sure enough, like we did go down it, and then today I went on to TrailsNH and I was looking at the difficulty. So it's like, I think it's like 0.6 of a mile, and it's maybe 600 feet of elevation gain. So I was able to put it in there. So there's the type of things that you can do with the hiking difficulty calculator, is to put in the distance and the elevation gain, and then you have a hiking profile that defines terrifying, steep, moderately steep, gentle, flat, etc. And then it also equates essentially like, okay, that's 0.6 of a mile. If we were going uphill, that would be the equivalent of walking 1.8 miles on a flat surface. So can you talk a little bit about that, the difficulty calculator that you built?
So the goal is to try to express to somebody how hard is it going to be. And that's not easy.
Right.
A lot of people might know flat, like, so they can go for a walk in their town. So that's why the flat equivalent is in there. It's like, because everybody should know, what 5 miles flat would feel like. But so then the calculator tries to show you, it's like this, what did you say? Couple hundred.
Yeah, it was like 600 feet and 0.6 of a mile. Oh my God,
that's steep. That's really steep.
Yes.
Did it come up as terrifying?
Oh yeah.
Right. So you're looking at the little graph there. It shows you, the angle, and it's going to be terrifying. So a little related story is, my brother asked me, is like, I'm thinking of doing Washington. How hard? What's the easiest route, and how hard is it? And I was like, he's from Florida. It's like,
flat.
How do you express to someone from Florida that hikes on vacation every year but doesn't hike as a hobby? How do you explain to them how hard it will be? So the flatland equivalent was that's where that thought came on. It was like, well, he might know what it feels like to hike 10, 15, whatever miles. And that's a long-standing formula that's been out there. The original president for Knowles, I think, came up with that formula. They called energy miles.
It's reasonable.
Yeah, no, I like it. I actually put in like the profile for like the Mount Washington Auto Road, which I think is around 4,000 feet of elevation gain, Stomps. So that's like yeah. It's like I think the flat miles are like 16 flat miles equivalent.
Got it.
Let's see, 4,000. What is it? Just shy of 8 miles, or
7.6 miles. Yeah. So it comes up as steep.
Right. Yeah, it's 16.4 flat miles. So the goal here, and I think there's going to be more ways to express how hard something is, but this is what I've come up with so far.
Yeah, it's cool.
No, it's a good visual tool, and it's fun. People can definitely go on here and play with it, and I'll put this in the show notes for people.
Yeah. So, and if someone has a suggestion or knows of other formulas, since I write this code from scratch, I can easily, add to it. Like, we'll get into my other calculator, which is a composite of many calculators. So this code I write from scratch, so I can expand it to include other formulas, other people's expectations of how hard something is going to be.
Right.
Yeah, and the other calculator you have is the hiking time calculator, which I think is great. I think like people that are doing, especially like if you're hosting a buddy hike or doing something like that, like this is a great tool that you can utilize to, to put in the distance, put in the elevation gain, and then you've basically broken down the pace from slow, normal, fast, run, trail surface, and then pack rate.
Right.
And it calculates basically what the estimated hiking time calculator is. Is this pretty much like, if you do normal inputs, does this match the book time?
Nope. So book time is in there as one of the estimates. I run book time. If you look in the estimate section,
right, it covers a bunch of different metrics,
rule, which is a common rule, and then I run book time. So book time seems to work okay in the whites. Nasmith's rule works for easy, well-marked trails when the conditions are really quite simple and you're in a light pack. So my buddies and I through hiking the 4,000 footers, we always knew we could take a percentage off what the book time says. So we'd look up what the book time is, and it's like, we'll beat that by, 20% or something. We always knew, that's going to be me with a backpack on. And so that's kind of how I ended up including pack weight. And also in the whites, some of the older trails are extremely rugged. The dirt is all gone. The treadway is just roots and rocks. That slows you down. If it was smooth dirt, you're going to be walking across there much faster. So just from years of hiking in the whites, I've experienced these different things, like hiking with weight, hiking very light, hiking on really rough trails, hiking on nice smooth trails. And so my attempt to put it into calculators came up with this hiking time calculator. There are a bunch of them out there on the web that just use the standard. They just use the book time and the NASMUS rule, but I wanted to make it so you could dial it in to your expected experience. And I think it's pretty good. I get a lot of good feedback. Google tells me it's number one on the internet. It gets a lot of traffic.
That's cool.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, I did it. I did a couple of test runs on my last 3 or 4 longer hikes, and I just put in the info and I put in my pace as fast. As a matter of fact, the hike that I did this weekend was 15 miles, 5,200 feet of vertical, and the hiking time calculator was off by 6 minutes. It's pretty good.
Yeah, that's tight.
And so I hiked every day last week. We were in Acadia, my girlfriend and I. We hiked every day, and I'm using Strava on a Garmin watch. So I just took the stats off Strava and put them in here, and it's like they were all within 3 minutes or 5 minutes. So
that's cool.
That's pretty good.
Not too shabby.
The trick is to, read your book. Is it going to be a rough trail or is it going to be smooth? Because that's going to impact your time. And the other factors.
Yeah, for sure. And then the third tool you have an aggregate on weather as well, which is nice because I tend to use 3 or 4 different sites and look through them all, but it's nice to go here and you're getting pretty accurate weather here. Maybe not, obviously we always want to point people to the higher summit forecast. But overall, I think that the weather info that you're getting it from NOAA Pointcast, right?
That's correct. Yeah. So NOAA, I don't know if you know what the Pointcast is or familiar with it, but they've divided the entire U.S. into a grid. Each little square is only 1.5 miles wide or 1.55 something miles wide. And they have a forecast for every little square like that across the entire U.S. So when they give you a summit forecast for Mount Moosilauke, it's really only a mile and a half square near the summit of Moosilauke. So it's dialed in at that elevation at that specific location. So I think Pointcast is about as accurate as you can get for any specific location. And so what TrailsNH does is you can either just go to the summit forecast page for any summit, basically just search for Mount Moosilauke, and then there'll be a button to click Mount Moosilauke Summit Forecast. And then I make it visuals. The NOAA data is excellent, and you can look at the NOAA graphs. A lot of hikers do, but it's clumsy. It's hard to get a good assessment of your day, what the weather is gonna be like. So I have these really cool weather graphs that you can visually read like a map and see your day, where the temperature is going to rise, if the rain's coming in late or coming in early, when does it come in, when do the clouds come in, when do the clouds leave. You can visually see your day, the weather of your day. And a lot of people like it. I think it came out really good. I'm happy with it.
Yeah, no, it looks great. And the other thing, we didn't put this in the notes here, but I was playing around with this as well. I'm an Excel list person, so I like to check off my list. But you do have functionality where if you log into the TrailsNH site as a hiker, if you're tracking a particular list, you can mark a particular summit or fire tower or whatever completed, and it'll mark it off on the map. And it takes a little bit of time to show up, but it is another way for you to track your progress against certain lists.
Yep, it's kind of a fun way to, and like if you look at the 4,000 footer page, there's a check button on each one of those little cards, and you can just go down the 4,000 footer page and check off the summits you've done. And it'll put it on a map for you. There's a Excel spreadsheet export for you. So it kind of an easy way to check off what you've done and kind of keep track. And there's a map you can share with your friends. You can send them a link to your, I call it the My Hikes map. And so I just looked at
Did you hear that? Did you hear that, list junkies? The list junkies are going to go nuts.
I got 482 peaks checked off on My Hikes map.
Oh, wow.
Now, have you done all of the Northeast 150? Have you done all the lists?
The Adirondacks, the New England 100 highest, 4,000 footers multiple times. Yep. Started doing some of the Catskills. I'm just slowly getting to do the Catskills.
Well, Stomp wants to know if you're doing the bushwhacks too, the 500.
No.
500 highest? No, not yet.
No.
That's a good one. That's a good list.
That was kind of our project during COVID. We wanted to keep hiking but avoid people, so I grabbed the local map and we just picked every named summit locally, and they're all bushwhacks. Well, more than half of them are bushwhacks. So we just go hit every little named summit near us. Love it.
Nice. And how do you pick what you're going to hike? Are you working on anything at this point, or do you just decide like the couple of days before you get out?
All of the above. So like last week we were in Acadia and we hit every named summit in there. So now we're trying to redline the park. And so it was fun at night to sit there with your map and say, well, we've done these trails, but we could make kind of a convoluted hike out of these random missing segments that we haven't done. So there's a little of that going on, just redlining different places. My friend's trying to finish the main 4,000 footers, so we take a trip up there and do those. Actually, kind of more than half of mine are just going with a friend to finish their list.
Yeah, that's where I'm at now too. It's like, okay, like I'm jumping in with my daughter or some other friends as they get started.
And it's kind of fun. You get to share your experience and help them.
That's great.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that with all this technology, it's great. And I think, Kimball, we didn't talk about this ahead of time, but I think I picked up on a couple of comments you made already. Like, we do want to remind people that, the guidebooks and the paper maps themselves are still the primary tools to do your research and make sure that you're, prepared to get out there.
Yeah.
But obviously the enhancements that you have on a website like TrailsNH is light years ahead of where I think even 10 years ago when I started, like most of the time it was just word of mouth.
Yeah, so you'll notice if you were talking about the peak pages earlier, a page that summarizes everything you need to know or everything TrailsNH knows about a location. It'll also suggest a guidebook. It's like, so you look up, I'll go to Moosilauke again. You look up Moosilauke and it's going to say, you should grab your White Mountain Guide. Or, you pick a 52 with a view peak and it'll show you the book and a link to buy it. And people do buy books and maps off the site. It's pretty common.
Yeah, and the aggregate on the trail conditions is great too. So you can go right to the trail reports via the TrailsNH section on right on the mountain page when you click on it. So it's just a convenient one-stop shop, so you don't have to click around to 17 different websites.
Right. That's its goal, basically, to become a dashboard to put what you need to know under your fingertips.
Yeah, no, it's a great idea. I think like, can you take all the transcripts and show notes for our podcast and make something cool out of it? I've been thinking about that at some point. Like, do you need an internship this summer?
Oh God. Yeah, I thought that was supposed to be one of your daughters last summer.
I know. They're not as smart.
What
as
are you
Kimball.
going to map from your podcast?
Well, I mean, like for our podcast, we have our transcripts. Right. We haven't ever actually done that, and then we have show notes. So we have like detailed show notes of every guest and articles and all this stuff. So I've had this vision that at some point I got to pull all this stuff together and make some kind of a cool knowledge base. But it sounds like you're too busy, Kimball. So maybe when me and Stomp really blow up and we get a bucket of money, we'll pay you to do it. But for now, we'll look for an intern.
TrailsNH could probably read it and tell you where it happened. That's what it knows. So it read it and it's like, well, he talked about Mount Adams, like 10 minutes in over here, and they talked about whatever else over there. So it would know where you talked about it, but.
Yeah, which would be cool. So
yeah,
that's funny.
Someday we can barely keep up with what we have right now, but I'm impressed though, Kimball. Like this is a great work. And then, do you have any other projects related to hiking? So this keeps you busy, I'm sure. But do you have any other big plans in the future for the site?
Well, we talked about the calculator, the difficulty calculator. I would like to find ways to help express how hard something is going to be. That's on the back burner. And I would also like to add, how do you decide which route for the mountain? Pick a mountain. Like I said, Moosilauke before. So you can basically go all 4 compass headings on Moosilauke. So which one's best for you? What's the difference? So there's nobody really out there talking about what's the difference, what are the routes, how do you compare those routes? And so I'd like to start playing around with something in that avenue.
Wow.
Yeah, I think that would be fascinating to, basically just pick out like the top 2-3 routes of each summit, and then put it into your difficulty calculator, and then give people some guidance. It's an interesting idea for sure, because I think a lot of times the people I see on social media will come up and they ask that specific question, and people just give their subjective, their opinions, but there's no real data behind it a lot of the time.
To talk about that a little more, like on social media, is like the person who commenting have they done them all routes up that, or did they only done the one and suggesting, well, I did it this way and it was great, you should do it the way I did. Versus, I've done all 4. This is the one you might like.
Yeah, and even like the question we get all the time, it's an interesting one, is, okay, what's the easiest 4,000 footer to start with? And I always am like, well, okay, there's Pierce Crawford Path, there's Osceola from Livermore, there's Hill from the Fire Wardens Trail, if you're talking about in the summer, and then there's Wambach, and maybe there's one that I'm not thinking of, but taking a look and saying like, okay, let's look at all those routes and then factor in the difficulty. I don't know if there's anybody that's ever done anything like data driven around those use cases. So
right, yeah. So you could combine the hiking calculator and the difficulty calculator and the data on those hikes to say, well, it would take you this long and it's going to be this hard. And here's how you compare the 3 routes. The difference in time, the difference in effort. But that doesn't give you the difference in quality. Like the view is way more amazing from here than over there, or the forest type is more interesting over here.
Yeah. That's why I would always say like, all right, well, I say Pierce just because you want to give them that view out to the presidentials, because that's going to give them the hook. Even if it's a little bit more difficult than like the Fire Wardens Trail.
Why not Eisenhower, Edmands Path? It's consistent, it's forgiving, it's a little farther, but the view is,
Yeah. Oh, but that final push up to the summit is rough. You're gonna make them quit, Kimball.
You had a bad time the first time. That's what happened.
Well, I think the first time I went up there was winter, so the challenge with the totally different, but like just that sort of side angle hill in the winter as you come up the backside is like it's a pain in the neck. But in the summer, it's
you're right. And see, your human memory is tainted by that. The experience you had. It shouldn't have been that bad, and you tell people it was bad. It's like I tell people I hate Passaconaway because
I'm right there with you.
It rained the entire time. I was with people I didn't end up liking, and then this was a fail on multiple. So it's like, Passaconaway, I'll never go there again.
That's funny. Yeah, Mrs. Stomp is like that too. She hates it.
Oh, I do too. I think it's for me, I just got bad vibes. I just think that there's bad spirits up there. It's something like I just got a weird, but it was the same thing, Kimball. I hiked it on a rainy day on my own and I just got spooked. And I was like, I don't like it up there. I have gone up a couple of other times because I've gone with other people doing their list, but every time I go, I just get a weird vibe.
I've been back, but it's my least favorite.
Yeah, I agree on that. So this is good. What about what kind of gear do you typically take? Are you like a person that tries to travel pretty light, or do you tend to take like a lot of gear, or what's your philosophy around that?
Yeah, so somewhere in the middle. I will always have my Gore-Tex jacket with me because it's good for the wind and the rain. I mean, it's just always going to be there. I'm always going to have water. I'm always going to have light. The rest, I don't know if I'll have. Well, so last weekend I was hiking. It was probably 70 degrees every day. I still had gloves and a hat in my pack. And
yeah, tis the season though.
Huh?
Tis the season though. I mean, it's still a little wild up there.
You never know. It could be a hard wind, and you're going to feel cold no matter what. So I guess I'm somewhat on the heavy side of going light. I don't bring a lot of stuff. I don't want anything hanging on me. Like you'll see hikers and they got different devices hanging on them and swinging, and it's like I don't want anything outside of my pack unless it's really something I need to grab. But everything should be put away inside. But I will always have first aid kit, Gore-Tex jacket, light, snacks or food, pretty much always.
Got it. And then you year round, you hike in the winter as well?
I do, although less and less, but
yeah. Well, I think this has been interesting. So I'll make sure I put everything in the show notes here. So there's a couple of ways that you can also support the site. I think you have a donation page, but you also sell some really cool stickers. You have like 4 or 5 different versions of stickers.
Yeah,
right. Now
so we can include those in the show notes.
Yeah. And for coming on the show tonight, I thought, well, maybe I'll put something together. So I just created a mixed pack, like we buy beer in a mixed pack now because I love Lord Hobo mixed pack. Okay. So I put together a mixed pack. You can get all 5 stickers, at a promo price.
Who does your design for those? They're fantastic looking.
I've done them all.
Nice work. I really like they're very attractive. They catch your eye.
Yeah, well, so the 2 that are about beer, up a mountain, down a beer, I also had the assistant of AI.
Okay.
So I some of that is AI generated and some of that is me. Yeah.
I like that saying up a mountain, down a beer. And then you've got a couple of different versions of you've got the Trail New Hampshire logo, and then you've got a couple of cool versions of the New Hampshire 4,000 footers, White Mountain 4,000 footers. So these are cool stickers. So we'll make sure that we include these in the show notes. And then you've got a donation page. I think that, probably just all the storage and everything that it costs to run the site's probably not cheap. So if anybody wants to help them out, then we'll include that in our link as well.
It's probably more than most people spend on gear.
I bet. So you're probably using a lot of memory or a lot of bandwidth on this data because there's a lot of info.
A lot of processing. There are a lot of robots that are running around doing stuff. So.
Yeah. So you've got friendly bots that are crawling. Do you ever get anyone that says like, "Hey, I don't want you crawling on my"?
Not anymore. It used to be that way. I used to show when I put it on a map, just as Google would, they would show you a snippet, like the first 2 sentences of the post. And I used to do that, and that offended a lot of bloggers. It's like, why are you including my text? It's like, it's the exact same text Google has.
Yeah.
why? So I don't do that anymore. I just link to the title and I use the title of the post, and you're on your own to go read it, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, people don't complain anymore. The goal of a website now is to like get more traffic. So they hope TrailsNH picks it up and sends some traffic.
Yeah, it makes sense. And then like I said, you're aggregating a lot of important information, and I highly recommend this to the listeners to check out. It's especially the calculators. It really will give you an honest assessment of how long and how difficult it's going to be to get out there.
Yeah, the one other thing we didn't talk about was like road status.
That's right.
This is the season that forest roads are opening up, and so TrailsNH has been harvesting what the Forest Service has said for years. And so then I decided, like, well, I have the dates of when it opened in 2009, and 2010 and 11 and so on. So it's like, why don't I estimate based on all the years of the past when it opened? So that's what it does. It now estimates when it's going to be opened or closed, and every year is different. Some years are muddier than others, more snow than others, but it's pretty close. And it's better than no estimate at all. It's like sometime in May.
Right.
It's like, can you be more specific?
And do you obviously you get human intelligence too, because like word gets out over social media. Do you track that at all, or is it just based on estimates on prior years?
It's just based on estimates on prior years, but there's a large following, and like someone will go on there the day that the road opens and say, "Oh, I saw this morning it opened," or "I drove by at 4:00. It was opened or closed," depending on the season.
Yep.
So there's a lot of active hikers that will come and then post the common, very popular routes, and then the others I noticed the Forest Service posts on their Facebook page, so then I put those in. Yep. So I have every year, every gate going back in time.
Wow. And do you have is there a particular road that's like less reliable than others that stands out to you?
Sawyer.
Less reliable?
Well, yeah, like it varies a lot. Like it opens on 2 weeks ago last year, and now it's like 2 weeks earlier.
Yeah, so I used to say, well, it should open on this date plus or minus X number of days, and it was like 20 days. I don't remember what road that was. It's like, well, that statistic's not helpful.
Right.
Yeah, I feel like Nash Stream Road is one of those roads that like it's one of the last ones to open, but I haven't seen much reports on it.
Was weird this year. Like the forecast said it would come in early May, and it didn't just open last week.
Yeah. So
it's like that's weird. I don't know why. Was it muddier than normal, or were they working on it?
I would assume maintenance plays a big role in that.
Or winter storms this year, like Wild River got beat up.
Yeah.
Or Edmands Col got beat up.
We had the heavy rainstorms too.
Yeah, heavy rain or late winter storms beat up some of the roads, and then Sawyer is like probably not going to open at all. Who knows?
That's fascinating.
It doesn't look like it is. I'm curious about the website traffic. Like, does your traffic spike in May and June when people are starting to plan for hikes, or is it pretty level throughout the year?
No, it definitely spikes in May. Actually, people start looking in April, wishing the road would be open.
Yeah,
but it almost never happens. Definitely a lot of traffic for the roads. And then, the first few days of winter, like the winter hikers spike. The peak baggers trying to get 4,000 footers in December.
Oh yeah,
that's a pretty impressive spike.
I bet.
Yeah. Do you see analytics about like outside of New England? Do you have like certain states that you get more traffic from than others?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I get a lot of traffic from Massachusetts because they like to drive to New Hampshire to go hiking.
Yeah, I apologize on behalf of the Massachusetts crowd, but we love it.
Well, at least they're looking.
Yeah, well, I was born in Boston, so
okay. All right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and so most of the information that the robots find are pretty much centered in the whites. Like, and you can look at the information tab. There's a page called coverage map, and it'll show you where the posts are and the density of posts. And so right at the whites is a hotspot, like tons of information. And then as it spreads out through New England, it gets less and less and less.
Yeah,
so people love to talk about hiking in the whites.
They sure do.
Yeah.
But no, Kimball, this has been great. We appreciate you joining us. And then I think if we have any really advanced technical questions, I know some pretty solid engineers, but they don't care about hiking like you do. So now we're going to be knocking on your door. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, this has been fantastic.
So, hey, Mike, our future project should be actually tracking where accidents happen.
Yes, I have all the data. We just need to visualize it. So the database is yours. So,
and, wouldn't that be helpful to a hiker to know, 4 people were rescued from here in the last couple of years?
Yeah. I mean, I hand you the data. You can run with it for the media report stuff. But yeah, maybe we'll connect on that separately. I feel like we might have had an exchange briefly, like a couple of years ago. But yeah, I would be happy to share that with you to see if you want to run with it.
Yeah. It'd be another kind of like road status. You have people contribute. Well, there's a rescue over here. There was a rescue over here, and just see if there's a pattern. Yeah.
You could even add it like to each summit. Like just put a list of like here's all the media reported search and rescue events that happen. So yeah, we'll listeners stand by. Maybe we'll have an update. So
yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Kimball, and we'll look forward to maybe reconnecting with you in the future. But for listeners, definitely check out TrailsNH.com, and we'll make sure we include everything in the show notes.
Yeah, Kimball, let us know if you have any updates on the site too. We can always plug it during shows if you want people to know. So.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that'd be
absolutely
good. Love to talk about it.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And it was great to talk to you guys. This was fun.
Good.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We'll see ya. And we're back.
We are back. So pretty good, Stomp. I think I'm gonna pick up those stickers there.
Oh, the stickers are great. I'm really impressed by that website. Kimball's a very sharp dude, and he's put together a really great resource for hikers.
Yeah, Stomp. Yeah. If you combine my brain and your brain, we would have like half a Kimball's brain, I bet.
Yeah, totally.
It's really impressive.
Man. Yeah. And to be honest with you, I didn't know that the site had that summit forecast feature as well. So I'm going to go check that out. Very cool.
Yeah, and it's a nice visual. And I'll include everything in the show notes. I'll include all the links to the tools and things like that. But I think that like the basic information is great. But I do think that like the difficulty calculator and the hiking time calculator, those are really, really impressive tools.
Awesome stuff.
Let's dive into some White Mountains history, shall we?
All right, Stomp. So I spent a little bit of time in the hammock reading a book over the weekend. So I figured I would share not a cool story, but an interesting story from 1983, going back into the, late winter into spring of 1983. There was a period of time where, and we get these every once in a while in the winter, I think we've had this like recently, where you get this like melting period, and then there's a ton of rain, and then a quick freeze, and you'll find like I don't spend a lot of time on the Pinkham Notch side of Mount Washington. I mostly in the winter stick to the Ammonoosuc side, but even the Ammonoosuc side, I've experienced these conditions where it's really solid, firm ice. So in March end of March in 1983, there was a period where basically Mount Washington turned into a sheet of ice, and there was 2 people that died in 2 different incidents in slip and fall situations. So I wanted to just share this story. It was first covered in Appalachia Summer 1984 edition. So I'm going to recap it. And there's a lot of moving parts here, so I'll do my best to try to tell the story, and Stomp, you can just jump in if you have any questions.
Sure.
All right, so this is the story of 2 friends, Ken Hawkinson, 23 years old, and his friend Ali Kashkuli. So Ali was new to the United States. I think he moved to the U.S. sometime in the early 80s. He emigrated from Iran to attend the University of Maine. As a young boy, Ali was he was exposed to the mountains of Iran and had always loved mountaineering and mountain climbing. So Ali, when he moved to the United States, he had gotten involved in some of the outdoor clubs in Maine. So he had met Ken through their attending University of Maine, and they quickly became friends through their love of the outdoors. The highlight of their new friendship was a week-long trip to Baxter State Park, where they summited Mount Katahdin in the winter. So Ken and Ali experienced some amazing views and some serene weather on their trip to Katahdin. So given their success at Baxter, the pair planned a spring trip to Mount Washington. Unfortunately, this trip did not fare as well as they did when they were in Baxter. So their trip on Mount Washington started on March 21st, 1983. In the days prior to the trip on Mount Washington, the weather had been significant rain that had fallen, and then there was a fast drop in temperatures. The result was that the pair was forced to travel on solid ice for most of the trip. They did have all the required equipment with crampons and ice axes, but even that was challenging due to the amount of ice. So they spent Monday night at Hermit Lake Shelter, and then on Tuesday, Wednesday, they were able to stay at Lakes of the Clouds. So I think Stomp back then, like Lakes of the Clouds must have been open or available for self-service. Obviously they didn't shut it down, or either that or they stayed in the dungeon. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure. That's always an option.
Yeah. So, but basically the weather, I think they had planned a longer trip, but unfortunately the weather continued to be poor. So the pair decided on that Thursday that they were going to bail on the rest of the trip and head back down to Pinkham Notch. So they decided that they were on their way out, they were going to ascend to the summit, and then they would head down to Pinkham. I'm assuming it was via the Lion's Head Trail. So they did make their way up to the summit. The wind conditions picked up, but luckily they experienced a little bit of clearing when they got to the summit. So Ali recalls that Ken was feeling really good about hey, at least we got a little bit of a view here. And, it was worth it. So we kind of took this risk to climb up, and now we're getting the payoff. And Ken was a big guy. He was 23 years old, loved the mountains. And, Ali and Ken spent some time up there. The wind was picking up, but they felt like, okay, we got visibility, so we're okay. As they made their way down, they headed down towards the top of the Tuckerman Ravine Trail. And at that moment, Ali remembers that, he didn't really remember the details that well. All he remembers is they were coming down the summit cone. They hadn't traveled that far yet. They were suddenly hit by 80-mile-an-hour winds, which caused the pair to slide from the summit cone approximately 800 feet. And the details, I don't have the specific locations, but 800 feet down. It sounds to me like what they were doing was coming close to Tuckerman. Right. Somehow they had gotten off of the trail itself. They had gotten windblown, and they ended up settling close to the Alpine Garden Trail, right, in the vicinity of Raymond Cataract, which is kind of where Huntington Ravine Trail would connect with Alpine Garden. So in that particular area there, right. Ali doesn't remember a lot of details. He stayed conscious during the fall, and he settled, like I said, around 800 to 1,000 feet down below the summit. When he came to, he was covered in blood. He had lost a glove. Conditions, again, it's still very windy, very icy.
Hypothermic.
So he did eventually regain full consciousness, got up, looked, and was able to find Ken. Unfortunately, when he did locate Ken, there was no sign of life and no movement. So Ali started immediately attempting CPR And, after some time, he decided to at least make the effort to put Ken, who's a pretty big guy, into his sleeping bag. So you can just imagine the feeling here is, it's windy, icy conditions. Yeah. He's just fallen 800 to 1,000 feet. He's injured. He's frostbitten on his hand. And he's trying
still
to do
way the hell up
CPR
there
to save his friend. Yeah, and there's no sign of anybody.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely horrifying.
Yeah. Hopeless.
Yeah. So no sign of life from Ken. Again, Ali's clothes are badly shredded. He's covered in blood, icy conditions. He's fearful again of continuing to slide. So as he's doing this, they're starting to slide again. So he's fearful that he's going to be sliding. Lost his crampons, ice axe, everything. Yeah. So and his pants are all shredded up. So he's got skin exposed. So not a good sign. So ultimately, Ali made the decision that he was going to take the time to put Ken into his sleeping bag. So he was able to get Ken into his sleeping bag, and then he made the decision that he was going to cut across the Alpine Garden towards Lion's Head so that he could hopefully try to alert other hikers if he could find them for help. So as he starts making his way, over to Lion's Head. At the same time, there's two separate parties that are making their way to that area. Doug Teschner was climbing Huntington Ravine's Central Gully that day on a solo climb, and ultimately he made it up. It's a risky climb as a solo hiker, but Doug was a pretty experienced hiker and had been involved in some rescues. So he decided when he got up on top of the head wall that he was going to bail out on the summit and loop back over to Lion's Head. Doug immediately comes upon Ken's body after ascending the head wall. He's initially in shock at discovering, at the discovery, but then ultimately Doug decides that he's going to try to fix the sleeping bag and try to at least have him covered up a little bit better than Ali was able to do. As he's doing this, he spots Ali making his way to Lion's Head. So he decides he's going to leave Ken there. There's no sign of life. And he's going to make his way to this body, to this human that's walking towards Lion's Head. So Doug is making his way to Ali and Lion's Head, there's two other hikers that are making their way up the winter route. These two hikers are Tom Murray and Chris Hardiman. So basically you've got Ken on Alpine Garden, likely deceased. Ali is in severe hypothermia injury situation. You've got Doug coming up from Central Gully, Huntington, and then you've got Tom Murray and Chris Hardiman coming up Lion's Head. So Doug makes it to Ali a little bit before Tom and Chris end up popping up. So initially, Doug's by himself with Ali. He's assessing the situation. He's like, this guy's in really bad shape. So he's trying to give him gloves. He's trying to work with him to try to get him a little bit more warmth with his clothes. Clothes are shredded up. And then luckily, Tom and Chris end up showing up. Doug sets off to the side to talk to Tom and Chris. He's like, look, this is a bad situation we're in here.
Yeah.
So Ali's a bloody mess. He's clearly in shock. He's in danger of exposure and frostbite. Doug's working his best to get him gloves and assessing his injuries. Doug finally takes the two men aside and explains what happened. Chris quickly volunteers to say, like, I'll head down to Hermit Lake to alert the people working at the shelter. Yeah. Doug is like, yeah, go. But he's like, I want to write a message. So I think Tom and Chris, they had a Bible with them and some writing material. So Doug writes a message on this page of the Bible to give to the people at Hermit Lake, because he's apparently friends with some of the people that work at Hermit Lake in the rescue area. So writes a quick note, and he's like, this is bad. You gotta get people up here as soon as possible. So Chris heads down, and he eventually arrives at Hermit Lake to explain that Doug and Tom are working to bring Ali down, that there's another body up there. They knew the rescue team, the people working at Hermit Lake knew Doug previously. He's a pretty experienced hiker, and he'd been involved in some rescues before.
So they knew it was pretty serious.
Yeah, and they knew that they had some capable people helping out. But they had a 3-person rescue team that immediately made their way up to Lion's Head to hopefully take over for Doug. So that team got Ali to Hermit Lake for treatment, and they took him into Hermit Lake shelter, warmed him up, started treating him for hypothermia, and then getting a larger team up there with a litter that can carry him down. As they handed Ali off to the rescue team from Hermit Lake, Doug then had to pretty much volunteer to say, look, I'll take the other rescue team members to hike back up to the Alpine Garden to locate Ken, and we can work to get a rescue. At the same time that's going on, notice gets out to the summit to say, look, there's a body on Alpine Garden. Some of the people from the summit get down there, from the observatory and the summit team. They start making their way down there. So Doug's making his way back up. You've got people from the summit coming down. They don't even know. They're like, maybe he's still alive. It's not, the signs aren't good. But eventually, Doug makes his way to the Alpine Garden with a couple of rescue team members, and then they also link up with the people from the summit. And they determine that when Ken's located, they basically determine he's deceased. But 3 members of the team decided they were going to stay with the body while they activated Mountain Rescue Service. And the process that they used to get up to the Alpine Garden area is that they engaged with the television Channel 8 snow machine. And then the observatory had a smaller snow vehicle. So they took 2 snow vehicles. The television Channel 8 snow vehicle had 8 rescuers from Mountain Rescue Service. And then the observatory had 5 or 6. And then the rescue team was able to basically get the body in a sled, bring it back up to the 7-mile mark, and then head back down in the snowcats.
Jeez.
So
incredible.
Crazy rescue, right?
Yeah, amazing. I can picture that kind of terrain with just flat ice covering the whole thing, and I can see that happening without question.
It's interesting. I only know the Crawford Path side. I haven't climbed down Tuckerman in winter to get a sense. I mean, my impression is that it's a bunch of rocks, and that I always assumed that you wouldn't be able to slide like that because you would just get stuck in crevices because there's so many big rocks. But I just haven't looked on that side, so it sounds like it really just fills in with snow.
Right.
And then with the rain, it froze over, and it's just obviously it's not a smooth ride, given that Ali was totally shredded up. But it's dangerous.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an amazing story. Yeah, nicely done. Telling that tale to us.
Yeah, and I got a couple of notes here. So Ali went on to have a long career as a professor at UMaine, and I think he also teaches at Husson University. There was some reference in the story where Doug mentioned that he was assured during the rescue that any medical bills that he had would be covered during the rescue because there was a new law that was passed in 1982 that said essentially anybody who is involved in a rescue will get their medical bills covered for them. Doug recalls that he had previously been on a rescue 15 years prior, so this would have been 1968. He had been involved in a rescue on Huntington where he had always regretted his actions on that rescue because he had let a litter loose right above the fan while they were trying to do a rescue, and the litter had dropped and had almost hit
took out people.
Other rescuers. Yeah. And he always felt like, I was inches away from killing somebody.
Sure.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, which is crazy.
Amazing.
And then another side note to this is that 3 days after the March 24th fatality where Ken Hokinson passed away, there was another fatality of a gentleman by the name of Mark Brockman, who was a 19-year-old student climbing Tuckerman Ravine with the Boston University Outing Club. So he died in a slip and fall accident as well. I've got conflicting reports on this one. I gotta pick up the Appalachia, maybe the fall 84 one to get more details on this one. But there's conflicting details on it, whether he fell in Tuckerman Ravine or he fell up above on the summit cone. It's not clear. But yeah, there was basically like a lot of rescues, and then there was another fatality that went on that same week on the 19-mile trail of a gentleman from Wilmington that had a heart attack and passed away. So there's a lot of fatalities around that period of time.
Right. Interesting. Can't mess around up there.
Can't mess around, and like you just gotta you can go from having a great time on the summit to death within seconds in the winter. It's just crazy.
Yeah, it sounds like they had the right gear, but back in the 80s, maybe that information regarding the actual state of the terrain wasn't as accessible as it is today. But
no, absolutely. Right. We get the word out on, to the websites like, hey, it's really icy, not worth going to. And I don't know, maybe they didn't have that luxury.
I don't think so. Yeah. Yep. I'm sure locally the avalanche reports are there and things like that, but wow. Incredible.
Yeah. Well, anyway, thought I'd share that story. I thought it was kind of interesting. And
yeah, it is great.
Moving on, Stomp, let's talk about Fieldstone Kombucha.
Yeah, Fieldstone Kombucha is New England's premier craft kombucha company. If you're in the heart of New England, you need to drink a New England-style kombucha. Softer, less acidic, and truly enjoyable. Our kombucha is naturally effervescent and boasts full-bodied flavor. Fieldstone crafts the best seasonal flavors. When we tell you there is strawberries in our garden blush flavor, it's like biting into an actual sun-ripened strawberry. Woman-owned and operated, we brew in Rhode Island using locally sourced ingredients. Fieldstone Kombucha is the perfect replenishing drink after a day on the slopes or a trek in the woods. It's chock full of probiotics and healthy acids to keep you in top form. Find us at Sunflower Natural Foods in Laconia, La Tasse Cafe in Waterville Valley, the Concord Food Co-op, and Granite State Food Co-op in Concord, and more. Check out our website for the full list of New Hampshire and New England-wide locations. And again, you can use code word SLASHER, SLASR, on the website for 10% off an online order. And it's shipped straight to your door. So we have fieldstonekombuchaco.com. And yeah, it's great stuff.
Very good, Stomp. Very good. So this is the part of the show where we are going to do recent search and rescue news. So we've got like 4 local stories here. I think the theme for these rescues is everybody was pretty well prepared, and a lot of them had hike safeguards.
That's right. And I think a lot of them were older individuals, if I recall correctly. We shall see.
There's an 81-year-old that needed a rescue, which is impressive. He was out doing some like crazy hiking. But yeah, we'll go through these. So let me see. First one is on Mount Cardigan. So 12:40 p.m. on Friday. So somebody's getting a head start on Memorial Day weekend. 66-year-old female hiker and a friend had summited Mount Cardigan. They were descending the Clark Trail when she started feeling ill. I think the Clark Trail is the alternative trail to avoid the Holt Trail. It's a little bit smoother. Mm-hmm. So her illness and pain quickly worsened, incapacitating her. So she's a hiker from Arlington, Mass. So they had started around 9 a.m. and they had eaten lunch around noontime after they summited, and then as they're coming down, this hiker started just feeling some pain. So they called at 12:40. They were able to get a rescue crew to reach their location at 1:45, where they were able to stabilize her conditions. She was able to walk herself to an awaiting rescue UTV. She rode the UTV back, reaching the trailhead around 3:50, and she was transported to Dartmouth Health for further evaluation. They were well prepared for their hike. So, I wonder if it's like, appendix or kidney stones or something. Seems like that.
Could be.
Yep.
Yeah, it could be.
So it happens. So, this next one. So, injured hiker airlifted from Edmands Col Cutoff Trail. So this is over by Edmands Col is not on Eisenhower. This is like Thunderstorm Junction and
it's a little more
the Gulf Side Trail. It's like Adams 5 in that area, right?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, it's a little more remote, a little more buried into the northern Prezzies.
Yeah. So this came from a spot device. So there was an SOS signal from Edmands Col Cutoff Trail. So this is between Mount Adams and Mount Jefferson. So the company monitoring the device had no additional information to determine the type or cause of the emergency. Shortly thereafter, a 911 call was received in the same location. The call was brief and was dropped after only a report of a serious injury. So this area is about 4.5 miles from the nearest road on the exposed ridgeline between Jefferson and Adams. There was no option to confirm the status of the event or the likelihood that it was a possible life-threatening situation. So a call was placed to the New Hampshire Army National Guard with a request for helicopter support. The National Guard was able to scramble a crew over, and then at the same time, 2 Randolph Mountain Club caretakers from Grey Knob were contacted. They volunteered to hike up to the ridge to locate the source of the emergency. So this has happened at 11:30. The Guard helicopter left Concord just after 3. Shortly thereafter, the 2 caretakers were able to come upon the hiker with a severely broken leg. So 27-year-old hiker from West Hartford, Connecticut, had crawled about a quarter mile from where he initially suffered the injury to the junction of Edmands Col, Gulfside, and Randolph Path, which is a good call because that's probably a more traveled area. Right. I have to imagine there's Sunday. I mean, I'm assuming there was people doing Prezi traverses and all kinds of activity going on there. So,
interesting story.
Yeah.
Thanks again.
The Black Hawk arrived and they were able to land the helicopter. Medic and crew chief were able to put the hiker in a litter and load him up. And this saved a lot of time. That is not an area where you want to get a rescue crew carrying somebody. That would be insane.
Yeah, that'd be a long walkout.
Yeah,
lengthy.
Yeah. And the hiker's experience, he's an avid hiker. He completed the Appalachian Trail through hike and has done multiple hikes in the White Mountains. And he possesses a hike safe card. All the proper gear for a prolonged stay. So he was going to be okay.
Yeah, that's excellent. Good outcome.
Yep. Next one is on the Rocky Branch Trail. So this is a trail that takes you up to Mount Isolation. Mm-hmm. This is typically like walking in a river this time of the year. So,
that's true. Yeah.
7:20 p.m. on May 25th, which I think would be Saturday, right? 51-year-old hiker from Middleton was reported an injury to her leg. Battery died on the cell phone while talking to the 911 operator. And but they were able to, I guess, get her location. So by 9:38, conservation officers arrived at the trailhead and they began hiking towards the coordinates received from 911. They got to her around 11:08, and they determined that the hikers could walk out with assistance. So the hikers and the conservation officers reached the trailhead parking lot around 12:40. Both of the hikers had hike safe cards, and they were able to eventually walk themselves out.
Good.
Yeah, and then this last one, this is an interesting story. So on Tuesday, so this one just happened around 9:45 in the morning. A 911 call was received. There was a lost hiker near the High Water Trail in Beans Purchase. So this is by the Wild River over by Evans Notch.
Right.
So the hiker is an 81-year-old hiker from Florida, reported having difficulty locating the trail. He had done hours of bushwhacking while attempting to follow the trail. He also basically had like fatigue at this point. So there was nighttime rains that had swollen the Wild River, making crossings difficult. So there's all kinds of issues going on here. So they had to get a rescue started. So they utilized an ATV. They were able to take about 5 miles of washed out road to reach the area adjacent to the hiker's location. Then they were able to ford the Wild River, and they located him near a riverbank. He was tired but in good spirits. So this guy's 81 years old.
Right. That's hardcore.
81 years old. He's out in the Wild River on his own.
Which is not an easy area.
Yeah, he's on a 4-day trip. He's an experienced hiker who was prepared with good gear, good physical condition. He'd been out in the woods for 4 days at the time of the incident, exploring trails on the east side of Mount Moriah. At the time of the call, he'd gotten turned around and expended a lot of energy following trails that had been obscured by washouts and severe events. So he knew he reached his personal limit and called for rescue. So this is like, we talk about this with the dry river, but the Wild River is the same deal.
Sure.
You know, those trails are not easy to follow out there.
They're not. And I mean, just looking at it, it rests in between the Bald Faces and Moriah. And how long is this trail?
Oh,
holy moly. It goes all the way up to the Androscoggin and starts way the heck down closer to what? Black Mountain? Where exactly does it start on the southern end? Is that near?
I don't know, but I mean, it's the thing
so
is like, you know, you look at the Carters and then you can see the bald faces behind them, but like that distance between the Carter Wildcat Range and Evans Notch it's no man's land out there.
It is. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, that's a hell of a commitment. Whew.
Yeah. So anyway, lucky that he knew his limits and got out of there, but
yep.
Yeah, busy week, and I expect, Stomp, that we'll be consistently getting rescue calls for the next probably 3 months, so you'll be busy.
I think so. Yeah, I mean, the good news is that most of the gnarly snow and ice is gone, so knock on wood, that's a good thing. But we're back into the slip and falls and just the orthopedic stuff that happens and some medicals, but yep.
All right, Stomp, so remember, if you're ever climbing with me and there's ropes involved, please do not cut them.
Yeah, it depends on who goes first, I guess.
Okay.
Who's in the lead.
All right, until next week.
All righty, later.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the show, you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts. If you want to learn more about the topics covered in today's show, please check out the show notes and safety information at SLASRPodcast.com. That's SLASRPodcast.com. You can also follow the show on Facebook and Instagram. We hope you'll join us next week for another great show. Until then, on behalf of Mike and Stomp, get out there and crush some mega peaks.
Now covered in scratches, blisters, and bug bites, Chris Staff wanted to complete his most challenging day hike ever.
Fish and Game officers say the hiker from Florida activated an emergency beacon yesterday morning. He was hiking along the Appalachian Trail when the weather started to get worse. Officials say the snow was piled up to 3 feet in some spots, and there was a wind chill of -1 degree.
And there's 3 words to describe this race. Do we all know what they are? Only one hell!
Lieutenant James Nealon, New Hampshire Fish and Game. Lieutenant, thanks for being with us today.
Thanks
Thanks for having me.
What are some of the most common mistakes you see people make when they're heading out on the trails to hike here in New Hampshire?
It seems to me the most common is being unprepared. I think if they just simply visited hikesafe.com and got a list of the 10 essential items and had those in their packs, they probably would have no need to ever call us at all.